Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
It's 3 o'clock on the dot, and live inside the SMC studios, it is Newhouse Afternoon, the Tuesday show. Back as always, Joseph Duffy joined alongside Hunter Caparelli, and March has been feeding us well so far this past weekend.
Joe, it's been chaos. I thoroughly enjoyed the first and second round of the NCAA tournament. I watched games throughout Thursday, throughout Friday, throughout the weekend. I was disappointed in my Tar Heels losing first round, blowing a 19-point lead, which was astronomically bad for the program. It was the largest blown lead in a first round game, but I know at least for your UT Texas Longhorns, you're happy that they have made it as far as they've been. They're the highest seed left, an 11 seed, the only double-digit seed left in March Madness. So I know you're happy for your Longhorns. I was disappointed in my Tar Heels, but I think a lot to look forward to for Syracuse men's basketball coming down the road.
Well, Syracuse men's basketball made headlines, especially this morning. There were rumors, but now it has been finalized that Legend of the Orange, a team or a guy who won the 03 championship, a guy who helped define the Syracuse Orange basketball program in that 2000s era, and Jerry McNamara, head coach of the Siena Saints, is back home and will lead this program.
Joe, I think there's a lot of positives with the hire, a couple negatives. I'll jump right into it. Positives I see right off the bat, the fact that Syracuse is keeping the hire within the family. I think after Autry was dismissed, there weren't many options with the replacement being from the family. There was obviously a lot of interest in Hodgson from South Florida. That would have been a guy who grew up in Central New York but wasn't from the family. There was interest there. He ends up going to Providence, and this opportunity opens up where you have a guy in GMac who he gets Siena to the March Madness tournament for the first time in 16 years with Siena out of the MAAC. They almost upset Duke, one of the biggest upsets in March Madness history. They don't do it, but a former Syracuse national champion played with Carmelo Anthony, whose son will still potentially be on the team next year. So you potentially have a scenario where Jerry McNamara will be coaching Carmelo Anthony's son, a guy who he played with. I enjoy that. I know a lot of fans are really happy that they're keeping it in the family. I think he's a guy who not only can he bring some of his top players from Siena, I think he could definitely hit the portal hard with some of those connections like a Carmelo Anthony. And I think the program needed a passion and culture reset. I think after back-to-back losing seasons, which was actually the first time Syracuse had back-to-back losing seasons before the moon landing in 1967 and 68. I think that the program just needed a culture reset, and I think GMac brings it.
I got to be honest with you. Halfway through the basketball season, I was really anti-inside house kind of hires like this or elsewhere. But really how he had his Siena Saints team competing against the mighty Duke Blue Devils, compare that to how the Syracuse team this year played at Cameron Indoor. A very, big beatdown, 37-point loss, tied for the largest in the Adrian Autry era. I was really won over just in that game alone. And I know both games were losses, but you look at how his team played, it ended up biting him really in the butt and not subbing until very end of the game because he only played 5 guys for the majority of the game, and they were still competing against some future NBA players in the Duke Blue Devils. And props to John Shire for the team he has had out there this season. But that really won me over. And new AD Brian Blair has made sure to let fans know that it's not just a nostalgia hire, which a lot of fans feared. He was saying, while Jerry's deep connection to Syracuse is meaningful, it's simply a bonus to what he brings as a coach and a leader. He honors our past, but he is driven to build for the future. You can expect there to be some energy come JMA Wireless Dome home opener next season.
Oh, 100%, Joe. Obviously, there were games this season where the Wireless Dome looked somewhat empty, even during conference play with some bigger games. And like I mentioned before, that culture reset, mindset. I think bringing in a guy like Jerry McNamara, or he's going to bring fans back into the Dome potentially. Obviously, with a hire like this, there's going to be a lot of positives. There's going to be potential negatives or cons. I think with a guy like Jerry, who his only head coaching position has been with Siena, a smaller school, not a Power 4 school. He obviously doesn't have Power 4 head coaching experience. He's been an assistant coach with Syracuse for a while, so he at least has the experience of coaching in the ACC as an assistant, but we're going to see what he can do as a head coach in a Power 4 school. And there's obviously pressure with trying to rebuild the program and getting them
just
back
about to bring
into
it up.
the tournament.
The pressure's going to be ridiculous.
It's going to be ridiculous. The fact that they haven't made the tournament since 2021, the fact that the NIL problems have been very apparent with Syracuse. We mentioned before on the show that they're in about the tier 3 definition of being in NIL for ACC men's basketball. That's looking at about $2 to $5 million for the roster, compared to a Duke or North Carolina that are in that $10 to $14 million plus range. But I don't think it's coincidence that the hire was made on Giving Day for schools across the country. You look at the fact that every school in the country is asking for donations from big donors, going to schools, going to athletic programs. It wasn't a coincidence that the announcement was made this morning on Giving Day. Donors are going to see that announcement. They're going to get really excited about the hire, and they're going to potentially donate money toward the program, which will help bring in new recruits, new transfer players, which will hopefully accelerate that rebuilding process.
And that kind of goes back to my last point, in that if that's how his guys were competing against Power 4 competition with hardly any NIL funding and way less resources, imagine what he could do with the resources that a Power 4 team like Syracuse has. And again, like we talked about last week, when you have an Eric Weitzman who has been kind of distanced from the program since late July, you know, he clearly wants to give back to this place. He's had such a connection with the teams in the athletic department here. Who knows what can happen if you bring him back to the fold and he can start opening the wallet to get better prospects and having a guy who is already connected well with the university.
100%. I completely agree. It's obviously not going to be easy to get to the tournament. Every team, because of NIL, is improving each year in and year out. But he definitely had a bunch of really good players on Siena. They gave Duke a run for their money in the first round. I especially like Gavin Doughty, their top player who's averaged close to 20 points a game. I saw a clip after the Duke loss. He mentioned to a UNC staffer, he's like, go beat Duke, go screw him. So I love, that passion, the fact that he has players on Siena that are looking to bring that passion potentially to Syracuse, guys on the team who said, wherever GMac goes, I'm going. So I love the fact that he could potentially bring in guys like that from Siena, and hopefully he can retain some of the potential blue chip players that were on the roster this year.
It's 3:07 on Newhouse Afternoon. Joseph Duffy and Hunter Caparelli. It's been 5 straight years now that the Orange have not made the NCAA tourney, a team that had really been a really top performing team in the tournament for many years under Jim Boeheim. What does Jerry McNamara have to do? Because I do have to say this before I ask this question. I do want to pump the brakes for those who are very, very excited about this, that it can still take time. And I know some Orange fans are very impatient right now. This team had a lot of success in the past, one of the most successful teams in the history of college basketball. It may still take time, maybe a year or two, to get back to that national level. What does he need to do to get Syracuse men's basketball back into ACC top competition and then eventual tournament competition?
I think he just has to continue doing what he was doing at Siena. But like you mentioned, I don't think fans should expect in the NCAA tournament immediately right next year. That's not the expectation with any program when they hire a coach, unless it's a North Carolina or Kentucky that has $20 million to play with. When your budget is $2 to $5 million, I don't think you can expect a coach to come in and immediately bring in a transfer portal team that is going to immediately get into the tournament after back-to-back losing seasons. I was a little surprised that they didn't potentially wait slightly longer for this news coming out of North Carolina that they're potentially parting ways with head coach Hubert Davis later this week. Not the fact that Hubert would have been a better candidate for the job, but the fact that he's been in the ACC, he's a former ACC Coach of the Year, he's been in a Final Four national championship. I was a little surprised that there wasn't more interest shown there with Coach Davis, But like I mentioned, I think Jerry Mack, he's gonna bring the fan excitement back into the GMac Wireless Dome, back into Syracuse. Again, don't expect success right away. It's going to take a little bit of time. I think you got to give him a year or two to see what he could bring, what results he could bring to the Orange.
Again, the Orange finished 15-17 overall, 6-12 in the ACC, way down there in the conference standings. We'll see what they can do, and I can't wait to actually watch this introductory conference. Brian Blair really fired me up last week. He seems to be leading this program in the right direction, investing more in women's basketball, who we'll get into right now, who just had a smackdown, losing 98-45 to the best team in the country, in the UConn Huskies. A 31-0 run from the end of the first quarter all the way to the second quarter would define this game, and AZ Fudd was the main person who got after it for the Orange.
It was a tough game for Syracuse. They were going into it as a 38-point underdog. With the women's tournament, it's slightly different from the men's, where the first couple rounds are played at the higher seeds home court. So the fact that they were having to go in playing a team that hasn't lost in almost 2 years on their home court, you knew it was almost an impossible task. The score says it all. The fact that Syracuse led up a 31-0 scoring run, there was no coming back from that. And I think you just have to take away the success and positives from before this game. The fact that they were able to get back into the tournament this year after having a losing season last year under Coach Jack. The fact that they were able to win a tournament game. We had mentioned the fact that we thought being on the 9 seed would be tough. The fact that they were going to have to play an 8 seed and then potentially a 1 seed. But they were able to beat Iowa State in the first round without one of their top guards in Dominique Darius. Audie Crooks, Iowa State's top player, she scored 37 points and they still won by 9. So I look at that positive. I look at the fact that the season overall was just a great positive bounce back year for Coach Jack. Obviously, the loss last night is disappointing, but I think there's definitely more positives than negatives to take from this season.
Definitely a disappointing loss. You can say that again. 24-win season, definitely an improvement, and you love to see this team possibly heading in the right direction. But I got to tell you, I was really disappointed in what Coach Jack said last night after the game. And she was talking about how she felt targeted in a way, or as she said, attacked by the committee that creates the brackets for always having her going in the bracket as UConn, having them go through stores. Yeah. So you look at, her last 3 appearances in the tournament, and she's had to be bounced by UConn. In 2019, bounced with her former Buffalo team, and then, of course, last night, but also in 2024 with Syracuse, also getting eliminated in stores. And she said after being in this business for 37 years and to have to be in this particular bracket every freaking year is unacceptable. I don't know if that's what you want to hear with, the coach who is one of the few teams that made the postseason in Syracuse athletics.
Yeah, I saw she was quoted as saying it's a personal attack for them to constantly having to be playing UConn in the tournament. I think it's a little bit of a coincidence. I think when the committee is putting these brackets together, UConn is obviously going to be a 1 or 2 seed year in and year out because of Coach Oriyama and the program they've built. Because of that, they're always going to have a home court advantage and then regions when they're putting that together. So I think it's a little bit of a coincidence that they've had to play UConn so many years in and year out, but I think it's a little bit of backhanded. You lost by almost 50 points. Obviously, she was frustrated. She's been very animated all year between what was going on with men's basketball with Coach Adrian Autry and now this. I think it's obviously not what you potentially want to hear from your coach right after the season ended, but like I mentioned before, I think you just got to look into next year. You had a great overall season. You're going to have players that you're going to want to retain, specifically Uche Azoje, their top player who won ACC Rookie of the Year. It's going to take a little bit of money to retain her, but if they focus on that, they focus on hitting the recruiting portal hard. I was looking earlier on 24/7 Sports. They don't currently have a player yet in the 2026 class, according to 24/7. So I think it's going to be all about hitting the transfer portal hard, hitting the recruiting class hard, and potentially building off their success from this year.
Yeah, well, you hit it right in the head. 24-9 overall, 12-6 in the ACC. A little bit of a downward spiral in the conference standings at the second part of the conference schedule. But yeah, disappointing in what she said afterwards. But I know from Coach Jack, she is a passionate coach. She lets it all hang out from the sidelines every game. She's a veteran of this sport. And, you know, I didn't like the quote, but I know that she really wants this team in the right direction. Yeah, she means well. She really does. And so, like you were saying, hitting the recruiting portal is going to be something that's going to be vital. Seeing how much they have in NIL and how Brian Blair wants to back them. And again, filling in more seats and helping to really create a better environment for this team is something to look forward to next year. So, definitely not the way they want to end, but this is a 36-0 UConn team. And it's hard to say that it's one of the best that Gino Auriemma has had because he's won the championship 12 times, has 1,200 career wins. But how they were performing yesterday, I felt like they couldn't miss a shot.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. He didn't let the dogs off. We were watching the game together. They just kept pressing, kept causing turnovers. Fudd was ridiculous. She wasn't missing a shot from outside. It was just UConn was playing their A-plus game and Syracuse was playing their C- game. It just wasn't a good formula for success. And like I mentioned before, you just got to look into next season. I think hitting the portal hard is going to be especially important just because of how Coach Jack hit the portal last year and saw success from it. Even though Uche is a freshman, she was playing in Japan for 2 years. That was basically a transfer portal get. You look at Layla Felia coming from UT. They've had a bunch of success hitting the portal, bringing in portal players that have immediate success. I think Coach Jack has to focus on that specifically going into next year.
Joseph Duffy and Hunter Caparelli and Newhouse afternoon is 3:15. And when we come back, we'll talk about the men's tourney and what has transpired this past weekend and also the Sweet 16 to come. We'll be right back with Tommy Armstrong. Don't go anywhere.
Still streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. If there's anyone that has any comments on the men's basketball hiring, March Madness as a whole, definitely hit the chat. Where did Dominique transfer from? Where? USC, that's what it was. I knew it was one of the California schools, but I didn't want to get it wrong.
I think she was at both. She was at UCLA too before.
She was at UCLA to start
It was both of them.
All right,
crazy.
So I wouldn't have been wrong.
What the heck? Put this in here, man.
Patrolling the YouTube chat. Yo, Ollie Gordon says, we got an Ollie Gordon guy in the chat. Really? Really? Is this an OSU fan I'm seeing, or is this, I don't know, Dolphins fan? Rip Cuse Women. Halftime score 65-12. Shaking my head. Yep, I know. Tough. Michigan gonna win it all. I got Michigan plus 375 to win it all. Adam W. should be back in the mix. Yeah, Adam Weissman, if he gets back, it can really change the game for Syracuse athletics. Is it stuck?
Yeah.
Just. That is weird.
I think it's great.
Oh my god. Yeah, let's get the mic. Oh my god. Sorry if you're hearing that noise. The headphone is like stuck in this grate, this pole. This is crazy. We're gonna have to have you squat in and just talk from there.
On screen.
This is crazy. There we go. Come on. There we go.
Nice.
All right. Do you need a mic test of Tommy?
That's a lot better there. I'll start talking.
Hello.
Tommy Armstrong, pleasure
check.
to join. Looking forward to some more March Madness talk.
Turn Tommy
All right.
up.
All right. Hello.
Keep talking. Or
Hello.
we're good?
Hello. All right.
Just say things for a little while.
That Florida loss had me sick.
I can't lie. I was grinning on that one.
I was super. I was super high on them. They
People were asking
finished
for
very
something.
well. They played well in SEC play. I still remember that game when they beat Arkansas by like 50.
People were talking too much chalk in the tournament. Now people are upset when the 1 seed goes down.
I'm only upset because it wasn't on my bracket.
See you, Walters.
See you, Augie.
It was something. Sturts is
Bennett Sturts.
coming from D2 to Drake, Iowa now.
Romano.
Do you have Vanderbilt going far? Is that how you're?
I had him beating Florida next round, yeah.
You do. So that's why you're pissed off with the shot.
I was really upset. I was just like, Tyler Tanner.
I had
Tyler Tanner's a stud.
I had him winning too. That shot should have gone in. It should have. They had that game in the bag too.
Yeah, they're up
That
like
one.
5 with like a minute and something left.
Them and Florida. Like that should be the Sweet 16 matchup right now. It should be Vandy, Florida.
Stop with Florida. They got bested.
I don't know
all game.
why. So like Todd Golden right now apparently is the favorite for the Carolina job.
You think he would leave Florida where he just won a natty? Stop it, man. There is no price tag.
Yeah, we're acting like Florida's not a top program in the country.
People can confirm this who are currently watching live on YouTube and Twitch.
Oh.
If you go on FanDuel or DraftKings, if you look up
You're kidding.
next UNC
this
basketball
sun
head
out, man.
coach.
Oh, yeah. They got the
Todd
lighting
Golden
on.
is
Tell me like an angel.
Awesome. If you go on FanDuel or DraftKings, you look up next UNC basketball head coach. The favorite right now is Todd Golden at +250.
That would be crazy. That'd be the most insane power move I'd ever seen from
The second favorite is Billy Donovan at +500.
Billy Donovan? That'd make more sense to me than Todd Golden because the college game is where he thrived more. He just won the Hall of Fame too as a college coach.
.com.
He should never left the college game. I don't know why he went to OKC, man.
Broadcasting stars today.
He's now winning a thing in
Broadcasting
Chicago.
live from the
Let Marcus
campus of
Page take over.
Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Really? He was in there?
And we are back on Newhouse Afternoon. It's 3:21. Joseph Duffy and Hunter Caparola here to talk about the men's tourney. And look who is back. It's Tommy Armstrong. I know you're enjoying this March Madness tournament so far.
Oh, I'm so happy. The first weekend was great. So many amazing moments just in the first couple of rounds there. Talked a little bit of first four and the preview of the bracket, and now happy that some of the games are underway and we're into the sweep.
It's insane how fast this tournament flies by from Thursday to Sunday. The big cut down of teams that are either celebrating moving on and then some just getting their hearts absolutely snatched. One of them being in that Vanderbilt-Nebraska game. That was my favorite game of the opening weekend for sure.
Yeah, I think it's I could say the same sentiment for that one. That game was back and forth the whole way. The only thing, I don't know if it added to it or took away from it a bit. That was a Nebraska home game. The crowd was so into it, which I think made it a little bit better. But at the same time, it's March Madness. You want a little bit of both flavors in there. When Vanderbilt was hitting the shot, the crowd just went silent almost. And it was all Nebraska. But yeah, that game, the Santa Clara, Kentucky one was fantastic. I mean, even for a while, there was some near huge upsets. Siena Duke early on. There's so many great games in the first weekend.
You even saw with that Nebraska-Vanderbilt game, if you were watching live, they were popping off the score bug, the sound DBs inside the stadium, and it was only when Nebraska would score they would pop it off because of how many fans were in the arena. It must have been like 95-5, like Nebraska to Vanderbilt fans. Tommy, I want to ask you, from the first and second round games, which was the most surprising result between any of the games?
Yeah, so that's an interesting take out of the first one. We didn't see, it's another tournament of not too many upsets in that first round. You were all on High Point. Got to give you credit here, Hunter. You're talking about it last week, and they go beat Wisconsin.
I'll shout out my cousin, Callie Shire, assistant on the High Point women's basketball team, who told me the week prior that she's seen the men play all season and they've been very good. So I'll give her a little bit of credit that she told me expect them to potentially upset Wisconsin. But
yeah, you pencil that one in. Again, it was a lot of the higher seeds. I think we're looking at round two. You know, people were talking about another chalky tournament. One seeds dominated last year, and then you go and you see a Florida team get upset by Iowa. Not saying that it was impossible going into the game. It's two completely different styles. Florida plays an SEC, fast-paced basketball game. Iowa, the slowest team in the country, and that's what they like to do to teams. Suffocate them, take as much time as they can off the shot clock, and they got out to an early lead, did exactly that. They were able to execute from start to finish. Florida had a little bit of life at the end. but ultimately Iowa goes and take it. That was a little bit shocking.
You kind of mentioned it briefly, but you were saying there weren't that many upsets. I want to just give you this platform to just talk about this hot topic that has kind of been taking over social media, especially Twitter, about March Madness not having the same flair as years past. Please just let me know your thoughts on that.
Listen, we see it for a second straight tournament. It's another one, like I just said, there wasn't too many upsets. I think we got a little bit too accustomed to the huge upsets, though. We saw FDU take down Purdue a couple of years ago. We were seeing 15 seeds beat number 2s, which is so exciting, but at the same time, that doesn't happen often. These are once in every few years type of things. If you watched that first weekend, rounds 1 and 2 of the NCAA tournament, and you tell me you weren't entertained from start to finish, that very first game off the rip with Ohio State against TCU. Phenomenal from there, going all the way to the end of it. I mean, the last one was Alabama and Texas Tech, which was a little bit of a stinker. But towards the end of that second round, there were so many great games on that fourth day. If you didn't enjoy that, there's a little something different.
Fan. I just don't think you're a true fan of basketball, fan of college basketball if you didn't enjoy those first 2 rounds.
And NIL has certainly transformed the landscape. It makes it much harder for these lower seeds to end up pulling out an upset. But at the same time, you get to these 4 or 5 seeds, and it almost looks like a 2 against a 3 right in the second round of the tournament. We talked about that Vanderbilt-Nebraska game. That was phenomenal from start to finish. Just 2 teams where I think they could have been moved up a line or 2. But just there's so many talented teams in those power conferences, and you're getting some amazing games off the rip.
Completely agree. You're getting amazing games now in the Sweet 16 and forward. Which Sweet 16 matchup are you potentially looking at as far as potential upset bid? I know St. John's Duke has been one that's turned some heads, being a 5 versus the 1. Rick Pitino, obviously, I know Joe is very high on St. John's. Are you looking at that matchup, or are you looking at something else?
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal one. You looked at this East region to start out, and there was so many question marks because of the big programs and the huge coaches in it. What are going to be the last 4 teams standing here? And this might be the best draw you can possibly get. You got Duke, you got Rick Pitino and St. John's, you got Tom Izzo and Michigan State, and then you go with Dan Hurley and UConn. That is an incredible force. And that St. John's Duke game, yeah, it could be one of the best off the rip. If you're going to talk about an upset, I'll just keep pitching it to Joe. I mean, Texas over Purdue. Yeah. How about it? I mean, the Longhorns are not a team to be messed with. We were talking about the first 4 in. It was a 50-50 game against SMU. They looked like the better team throughout. And then it's one of those things. There's always a play-in team that goes on a run, and this year it's Texas.
Well, there are some people who definitely want to say, this team is definitely not a Cinderella, trying to put them down. But you know what? I agree with them. They're not a Cinderella. They have money. They have talent. They just underperformed in the SEC. And they had a good few wins with, going against Georgia, going against Vanderbilt, who was really hot to start off the conference schedule. But you see where they get hot, and this is what is grown accustomed to in the program. They get hot in tournament season a lot. And you saw that 3 years ago when they almost made the Final Four and then got bounced by Miami. This is what the Longhorns do. They get hot in the tournament season. But I tell you what, people are hyped about this Eastern region at Capital One. I am really excited to see this region that happens in Houston with the Big Ten West, the historic Big Ten West, and also the Houston Cougars get to play in their own backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, that Iowa-Nebraska game, I know they're probably not going to win the tournament. Neither one of them really has a great chance to finally take home a chip, but I'm excited for that game for some reason.
Yeah, that's an exciting one, and that's the bracket that the 1 seed's knocked out, and so you really don't know who's going to come out of it. It's a Final Four team where you could see a 9 or a 4, the winner of that Iowa-Nebraska game, but that bottom one's so intriguing as well. Illinois versus Houston. I talked about a clash in styles before with Florida against Iowa. That's right here. I mean, it's not the same Kelvin Sampson defensive team, and this Houston team has a little bit more outside shooting, which we don't usually see. But Illinois, one of the best teams, one of the most efficient offenses in the country, going against a Kelvin Sampson-led Houston. That's just one to pencil in that I want to be locked in from start to finish. And then the other one, I think we talked about it at the start of the bracket, but it is criminal what the committee did to us having Arizona and Arkansas in the Sweet 16. Why couldn't that one come later?
Yeah, I really love that matchup. You were mentioning Illinois-Houston, that Kingston Flemings versus Keaton Wagler point guard matchup. That's going to be sick. I want to touch back on that Arizona-Arkansas game. I think that one's being a little overlooked. I personally had Arizona going all the way and winning it all. I just think that they've looked like the best team throughout the year. Right now in Ken Palm, they're the only team with a top 5 offense and defense between Big 12 Player of the Year Jaden Bradley, their 2-star freshman with Braden Burries and Koa Pete. Do you think that'll potentially be a cakewalk for Arizona, or do you think Arkansas with Darius Acuff could pull off an upset?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Arizona's been the most consistent team in college basketball all season long. There's not a game, even in their couple of losses, where you said, oh, this team has a flaw.
Yeah.
They don't, and they've played every game to the wire and had the chance to win every single game this season. They're doing it again in this tournament, but for the Sweet 16, drawing Arkansas, it is no cakewalk for sure. You talk about Darius Acuff, that's easily got to be the best player in this tournament right now. He willed Arkansas to win against High Point. It was another one. High Point was getting hot. You saw how scary they were against Wisconsin, what type of damage they could do, and Arkansas was getting tested.
High Point could have won that game.
Exactly. Not only this kid had 36 points and 6 assists, he was knocking down shot after shot in crunch time and absolutely sealed the victory for Arkansas. If you have Darius Acuff on the other side, there's definitely a chance.
A lot of Damian Lillard comparisons from people in the media and on Twitter.
Well, because of that, is Arizona still your favorite, your overwhelming favorite?
Yeah, that's the thing before, is one of the harder roads, I think, to get just to the Elite Eight, because I legitimately thought it could be Arkansas or Wisconsin. Turns out Wisconsin got bounced out pretty early, but mainly penciling in that Darius Acuff and Arkansas matchup. I think you still have to say Arizona, but teams like Michigan have looked so dominant, and on the books, I believe they are the new favorite to win it. I think they have a little bit of an easier path, well, at least in the Sweet 16 game against Alabama.
Right? You look at Alabama, they don't have Holloway. I think they're looking at that as potentially an easier matchup, and then the Tennessee-Iowa State matchup. Iowa State dealing with the Jefferson injury.
Still question marks there.
I think they're potentially looking at Michigan having an easier path, combined with the fact that they've looked pretty good so far. That's probably why they're the odds-on betting favorite.
I mean, Yaxel Lindenborg, he was turning on in that round to 32. They looked extremely scary. An Arizona-Michigan matchup, just to get to the national championship, would be so entertaining. I think if that Iowa State team is healthy, they could play with any of the teams in the country and are one of the best teams in the country. So it wouldn't be an easy path to get to the Final Four for Michigan, but certainly an easier game against Alabama than it is Arkansas.
Well, speaking of Alabama, I don't know if anybody expected that performance, what they did against Texas Tech in Tampa. I mean, since Aiden Holloway has been out, I mean, with the incident that happened, you know, you look at what this team has done. I mean, they just steamroll through these Texas Tech Red Raiders. And I know Grant McCaslin has been high in his team, even with, you know, one of his better players going. But what they did, or how they played against Texas Tech, or Alabama rather, was quite unexpected.
Yeah, it's two teams that you knew just had to have made tactical shifts coming into the tournament. Texas Tech, obviously, without one of the best players in the nation in JT Toppin. And then you mentioned for Alabama losing one of their top scorers as well. And you figure if Alabama was going to get to this point, it would be LeBaron Philon just throwing up 30, 40-point games to will him there. It's not even that. This team's just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, so he came close to that 30-point mark in that first-round game. And then the second-round game, he didn't really go off.
All-around effort.
They were 19 of 42 from deep. If you're going to hit 19 threes, you could beat anyone. So I think Michigan definitely has to be wary of that, the fact that if Bama comes in and hits 15, 16, 17 threes, they could potentially be on upset alert.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're getting to that point, you're in the Sweet 16, especially all the 4 seeds are advancing, and they've looked really good. Kansas was bounced by St. John's. St. John's the 5 seed, but for them to slot into that spot, they've looked phenomenal. And then Nebraska, Arkansas, and Alabama have all played really high caliber.
I'll jump in real quick. We have the one matchup I think we haven't touched on yet, Michigan State, UConn.
Yeah, it's another fantastic one.
Boy.
Fantastic game. UConn, obviously, back-to-back champions in 23 and 24. This year, up and down, they looked really good to start off. Had a couple mishaps during Big East play. They had losses against Creighton and Marquette. Is UConn back to where they need to be after that UCLA win, or can Michigan State potentially go on a little bit of a run here, maybe upset UConn and potentially even beat the winner of Duke and St. John's and get to the Final Four?
Yeah, you can't count Dan Hurley out, and especially just with the championship DNA he still has on the team. It's an experienced roster at that. But I'm looking at Michigan State here. I think UConn hasn't been tested yet in this tournament, obviously versing a 15 seed. And then UCLA, they were banged up. Tyler Bilodeau not able to suit up. And at the end of the day, I think that's what scraped UConn away. It was a convincing win towards the end of the game nonetheless, but I think this Michigan State team has looked really sharp.
Good. Really good.
So do you really end up losing when you have all these stellar matches? People
can't.
say, the upsets are not there, but you end up having these great games coming up in the Sweet 16. I can't wait to see it later on, starting this Thursday. Tommy Armstrong, thank you for joining us yet again on Newhouse Afternoon. When we come back around the corner, we'll talk about men's and women's lacrosse, which has been playing a little better since our last episode. We'll be right back on Newhouse Afternoon with Robert Shabilsky.
Still streaming live on Twitch and YouTube. That was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Tyler Tanner. Shout out Taman Lipsy. What a game.
I was looking at conference representation in the Sweet 16. I was very wrong with fading the Big Ten.
Oh, I know, but it's usually what you do in March.
I
Best March they've had ever.
I just didn't think that the conference outside of Michigan was honestly that good this year. The fact that they have 6 teams out of the 12, they have 50%.
It's another one, too, when you're talking about, Cuse in the offseason. They got to fix it as quick as possible. It's the second year in a row. It's the only team in the ACC that's advanced to this week. The ACC is down, and you got this advantage.
And the ACC looked a lot better this year.
Meanwhile, the Big Ten.
That's what they were saying all year, too, is what? They only had...
Duke, UNC, Louisville, Miami, Virginia.
They only had Louisville and Clemson last year. Was that the year UNC won the play last year? God.
Yeah.
Okay, so they ended up having 4 teams in it.
Who is waving?
Hi, Otto. Yeah.
It's Otto the Orange. Otto the Orange?
Oh, is that?
Yo, don't air that out on stream. Dude, no, she announced it today. Yeah.
We have a new Otto the Orange?
Yeah, well, no. She announced it.
We got a new auto. I'm going to go work out. What are you doing?
Can you guys hear me? Am I good here?
Test.
All right.
And then can you just
Shabilsky.
pull up the...
Stat.
Just go to Cuse.com and just pull up what the game is. It was 5-2, I think, when I checked.
Yeah, because they're playing right now, right?
Yep.
Albany, the Golden Danes. The Great Danes. The Golden Danes? Great Danes, my bad.
Yeah, the Big Ten having 6 of the 12 teams is absurd.
Bro, they usually don't.
They're not. It's not on Stat Broadcast. It's
They're not?
on Sideline Sports, I think, or Sidearm Sports. But if you go to Cuse.com and click on it, it should... Yeah, so just live stats, and then it'll bring you to it. And they said we're good. Sound-wise, we're good?
You did?
Awesome. Excited to be back. Full block
go.
today.
Let's
This
go.
is big. Talking some ball. That's what I'm doing with my guys. Alongside Joseph Duffy, Hunter Caparelli. Fired up to be
Already a
back.
5-3
lax
game in
season.
36 minutes?
It's lag season. Tommy, then you think about it, between Florida,
Crazy first.
who should have...
Tommy, can you
One
bring
at
me
the
my
end.
laptop? Unplug it and just bring it to me.
Between Florida,
Use as a prop.
who should have won at the end, if
Use as
they
a prop.
were able to
Well, it's dead.
defend.
It's dead.
And if that Tyler Tanner 3 goes down,
Thanks, brother.
it would have been the SEC who would have had 6 teams, and the Big Ten would have had 4.
Dude, Bruce Pearl tweeted like a Texas win graphic, and I was like,
Really?
yeah, I mean, because he was trying to tout the SEC's greatness, and like I get your agenda with that. It's like he wanted Auburn. It's like, okay, man, it just means more, which is the SEC motto, but like I know what your agenda is with that.
Well, so I hate that the Big Ten has as many teams, and I also hate the fact that the Big East technically has more teams left than the ACC. The Big East, that conference looked horrendous all year. Right. Yeah, because Duke is the only ACC team left, the Big East technically has more teams remaining than the ACC. What?
No.
It's very possible. I mean, they should.
Bro, Hunter, I think both you and I are having the cough or something
Yeah.
with our voices. I don't know what it is,
I
man.
just get a little raspy when I'm...
Dude,
You sounded not great.
What?
I'm doing my
not
best.
great.
I'm doing my best to not
Why
cough.
don't you sound like that?
I'm doing my best to not cough on y'all, man.
Yeah, it's
I don't feel like terribly sick. It's just my
allergies.
allergies are bad.
Cool. Allergy season.
Dude. My goodness. Ben Johnston and Kyle Colsey.
You can just
Tomorrow's
do it.
broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
And we're back on Newhouse Afternoon. It's 3:38, and we are here to talk about men's lacrosse, actually both lacrosse programs, with Robert Shabilsky, Joseph Duffy, and Hunter Caparelli. As always on the Tuesday show, we'll start with this team that's jumped from 8 to 5, and that has been on a heater. 5 wins in a row, Robert. Just beat number 13 Georgetown at the Dome this past Sunday, 18-12, the highest scoring contest that they've had this season with 30 combined goals. Very chippy game.
Very chippy game, but great to be back in the Dome. The last time they played at the GMA Wireless Dome, the day before Valentine's Day.
37 days.
37 days, that big win over then number 1 Maryland. So to be back in the Dome and have a crowd of 7,200 people on Sunday was huge and got the job done with their highest goal total of the year. So really exciting game on Sunday.
Yeah, Syracuse offense, super efficient between Michael Leo, Finn Thompson. You don't even need Spallina to really do much goal scoring wise. Do you see that becoming a potential theme going down the road here with the rest of the regular season play?
I think the biggest thing that really opened up that margin for the Orange was they were really tactical in transition. They were really able to push the ball in the middle of the field. Riley Figueres crossed the midfield line, had a good look, and then another assist for a goal in that second quarter. And that's when things really opened up. The Orange only led the Hoyas 4-3 at the end of the first, but they went on a 7-goal run in the second. It was 12-4, 12-6 going into break, and obviously let their foot off the gas a little bit in the second half. I don't love. I'm still waiting to see Syracuse play a full 60-minute game, but that second quarter is really when things opened up, and you mentioned Michael Leo tied his career high for goals on Sunday, 5 goals, and what's really unlocked him, they've moved him out of the midfield and down to attack. A lot of coaches say now, or play this positionless style of lacrosse. They don't really believe in attacking midfielders. They believe in their offensive players and offensive sets, and you want your best players on the field at all times. When Michael Lee was playing out of the box as a midfielder, he was averaging 2 points a game. Now being moved down to attack, he's averaging more than 4, and he's still playing in that midfield kind of position. He's at that lefty wing that's left vacant by Owen Hiltz's graduation, but when the ball gets in the offensive end, he's still swinging up top and attacking from the top of the box and in front of the cage, but it's really opened up a lot more scoring opportunities for him.
For Leo specifically, going off that, do you think having someone like Spallina, who's so good offensively, is almost taking the pressure off of Leo and maybe attracting defenses toward him, where it's opening maybe more goal-scoring opportunities up for Michael Leo?
They play Duke on Saturday.
This Saturday.
When Duke goes into their coaches' meetings this week and they hand out the scouting report, Joey Spallina, 22 and Orange, is going to be at the top of that. Totally. Michael Leo is right below there, and Finn Thompson, and Luke Rose. So there's an abundance of offensive talent on this team. You really have to be prepared for everybody. But I think the fact that Joey doesn't have to really force himself to go to the rack himself and can spread that wealth and feed the ball. He had 4 assists on Sunday, I think is a huge help when you have someone like a Michael Leo step up and have 5 hit the back of the net. Peyton Anderson had 2, and Finn Thompson had a huge game, had 3 goals on Sunday. So when you can get everybody involved in the party and everyone finding the back of the net, that's when the Orange have a ton of success.
Robert Shabilsky on Newhouse Afternoon. We talked about the offense and how explosive it was. They did let their foot off the pedal a little bit. How do you evaluate Jimmy McCool? He had 17 saves. How do you evaluate his performance in this win streak?
He's had such a great start to the year. You can't really even say start of the year anymore. We're at the midpoint of the season as we begin to start conference play, and so many conferences have already had their conference play underway. The ACC, only 5 teams, so starting a little bit later here. But Jimmy McCool has been so important to this team's success. He really is the backbone of that defense. He's got Riley Figueres and Billy Dwan III flanked in front of him, but Jimmy makes all the big stops, and it feels like whenever a game's getting away from him, he really is that brick wall in the net and makes the stops when you need him. I think going off on the defense, though, we have to be able to clean things up and play a full 60 minutes. Towards the end of that fourth quarter, Chuck Kaczynski has basically an elbow to the neck of a Georgetown player. The ball is out of the player's stick. Chuck Kaczynski, leading with the crown of his helmet, gets his elbow up in there and takes him to the turf, gets a 3-minute unreleasable penalty, gets ejected from the game, and he's going to have to sit out on Saturday against Duke. So we've seen some of these games towards the end of them, they get a little chippy. Things start to get away from the Orange a little bit. We saw that in the Denver game with a lot of flags late, but you just got to be able to clean things up. But this defense, I'd put them up with some of the best defense in the country right now, led by John Ordorna. And I actually saw Coach Ordorna at the coaches show Thursday night at Shaughnessy's in downtown Syracuse, and I said, Coach, how do we feel going into Georgetown? I said, personally, I don't think Georgetown's that good. He said, Georgetown's pretty good. We have our work cut out for us. They have a lot of guys on the field we're going to have to stop, and that game plan obviously worked pretty effectively on Sunday.
Looking ahead to this Saturday, number 4 Duke coming into the Wireless Dome. The biggest game, I think, in the Dome since that home game against Maryland. What are you specifically looking at for reasons that Syracuse will win this game, and what could be their potential downfalls to losing to Duke on Saturday?
I want to hit you with a little number here, Hunter. My friend Dan Arestia, he posted on Twitter yesterday the goal differential for the Orange when they play at the Dome and when they play on the road. Now remember, the Orange coming off a 6-game road stretch. In the Dome, their goal differential is plus 33. On the road, beat Penn, beat Hopkins, beat Air Force,
some big wins.
Beat Denver, only plus 6.
It's a big difference.
So when the Orange play in the Dome, they are arguably the number 1 team in the country. They are so much better in the Dome.
Right.
I think they just radiate off that energy from the crowd. They radiate off this fan base. Their midfielders look bigger. They look more athletic. They're more explosive. But they're going to need to come and be ready to play on Saturday if they want to beat Duke. And Duke hasn't really been tested to start the year. You mentioned they're currently ranked 6th in the IL media poll. Cuse is 5, just a spot above them. But Cuse is 2nd in the RPI. That's the only metric that matters for teams getting an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. Duke is 7th in the RPI, but the number that really stands out to me is the strength of schedule. We talked a couple weeks ago how Gary Gate basically copy and pasted that preseason top 20 and put it on their schedule. The Orange's strength of schedule is sitting at 2, right below Princeton. Princeton has the toughest schedule in the country. Duke's strength of schedule, 27. Ooh. They haven't played really a real test yet. They're 8-0. They had a scare on Sunday at home. They played the same time Syracuse played against Denver. They're down 0-4 at the start of that game. They rattle off 7 goals in the second quarter. They only score 1 more goal the rest of that game, so they get that win over a Big East team in Denver. But Saturday is by far the Blue Devils' biggest test of the year.
Well, 2 straight ranked wins for the Syracuse Orange have led them to being ranked from 8 to 5, have a chance to make it 3 straight against Duke. Who are the players to look out for the Blue Devils?
For Duke, it starts in the midfield with Ben Johnson. He's 6'1", 220. He is so big, so two-handed, really stretches the field, has 27 goals and 5 assists on the year. He is one of the best midfielders in the country. I would not be surprised to see him be a first-team All-American type talent at the end of the season. You also have Kyle Colsey, who's a redshirt freshman, was at the University of Virginia a year ago, didn't get to play due to injury. He's back. He's posted 20 goals and 7 assists so far. Those are really the headliners and the guys that really stand out on the stat sheet. But I was talking to a couple of my buddies that are Duke fans and have watched a ton of the tape, and they're like, listen, even though Ben Johnson and Kyle Colsey's really jumping off the page, the offense doesn't run through them, and that's why Max Sloat and Thomas Menke, another UVA transfer, have had so much success in that Duke offense. My biggest kind of point of concern is Patrick Jamison. He's just a hair over 50% in his save percentage in his career. He's been starting since he's a freshman. He's now in his junior year, but Sunday against Denver only had 2 saves recorded, which is really out of the ordinary. And if you're going to play in the Dome and have success, you're going to have to stop more than 2 shots with the amount of offensive firepower. But one player that some people, an overlooked position, and certainly not for a player of this guy's caliber, Aiden McGuire. He is the top short stick defensive midfielder in the country. He's a top PLL draft prospect. And now with Bobby Van Buren and Will Schaller from Maryland being hurt, I wouldn't be shocked if Ada McGuire is one of the top defensive players taken off the board in the PLL draft this year.
My last one. How important will it be for John Mullen to dominate that face-off circle against Duke in order to try to get this win?
You have to dominate the face-off circle anytime you play. We got to be in that 50% category. He struggled a little bit at the beginning of that six-game road stretch there. He's definitely gotten back to that form we're used to seeing, but Thought Johnny Mullins played pretty okay on Sunday. I think he's going to have success on Saturday. But really, lacrosse is so unique compared to every other sport where you're not guaranteed that time of possession. You have to go out there. You're the man in the arena, center field. Everyone's looking at you, expecting you to win that ground ball. And I think Johnny Mullen will have success on Saturday. But it's really going to be that defensive midfield for Syracuse trying to stop the Duke midfielders. And for the Syracuse midfielders going against someone like Ada McGuire, he's basically an extra pull out there. That's how much John Danowski and the Duke coaching staff trust him. They'll give him a top matchup. So everyone's got to be prepared and ready to go, trying to get that first win of conference play and to keep this thing rolling. We're now in conference play. Things start to get really serious here, and it doesn't get easier for the Orange.
Well, this Saturday, they'll get to try to extend this win streak against Duke at 2 p.m. at the Dome. Be loud, be proud for your Syracuse men's lacrosse. Another lacrosse team is playing right now in the Syracuse women's lacrosse team, coached by Reggie Thorpe, winning right now as we speak, 7-4 at UAlbany, playing on the road, who have not lost a home game this season, and 3 straight ranked wins for this Syracuse lacrosse team. This team is humming right now. It's been because of defense.
Absolutely. I mean, the defensive strength of this team is what has led to so many of the wins. And you look at the past couple games, the scores, 6-5, the final in Charlottesville. That's a dogfight. That's a low-scoring game.
So it was their 5th straight game. They held their opponent to 6 or less goals.
Which is super impressive, that zone defense that Reggie Thorpe coaches. And Coco Vandiver, that rover, that traffic control cop, just controlling the defense and barking out orders. And Casey Benoit, I think, has been so impressive throughout this stretch. And Dan Guyette in cage, she's standing strong, standing tall, has made so many big stops, a big reason for the Orange success. But we didn't get to talk about it last week. Molly Guzik, the attackman, she's been on a heater. When the Orange went to Chicago, they played Northwestern, the Lake Show. Northwestern, historically one of the best programs in women's college lacrosse. They lost to UNC last year in the national championship, going to play on the Lake Show. No easy feat. Syracuse get the win. A big part of that, Molly Guzik, 6 goals in that game. She's been unbelievable. And something some people might not realize is not only is she an attackman, she's taking a lot of draws for Syracuse. And Reggie Thorpe said in a press conference after their win over Yale, which was another low-scoring game, really had to trust on that back-end defense, because Yale, another team that really supports their defense, and that's the strength of their team, says Molly has been unbelievable for us taking the draws. It's something else we've asked her to do. We've bumped her from midfield down to attack, and people don't really realize how obscure that is. That would be like one player doing the job of Johnny Mullen and Joey Spallina. That's not a normal thing. So for Molly Guzik to be able to do what she's doing this year is super impressive. I still think we're waiting to hit our stride on offense. I know that's something Reggie Thorpe's been talking about, and Coach Nicole has done a great job with the girls and getting into the sets and the looks they like. And it's going to be a work in progress, but the goal for them is just to keep going 1-0 every week to make that ACC tournament and just have a ton of success as the year continues. But a couple weeks ago we were talking about Rob. They're 0-3 to start the year. They played the best 3 teams in the country to start the year.
Just about to get to that. I mean,
Maryland, UNC, and Stanford. So no real surprise that they've been able to kind of turn things around a little bit. But Reggie Thorpe, one of the greatest minds in women's lacrosse. He's such a fantastic coach, such a fantastic human being. And now at this midpoint of the season, all the girls on that team really buying into his philosophy. And it's paying off. They're having a ton of success. And up on Albany right now, I think another great win for them, that New York State kind of rivalry. So really excited to see what they're able to do next as they keep the train rolling here.
Guzik leads the team with 31 points. You mentioned she's been spectacular. We're looking at the score right now being up 7-4. Caroline Trinkus already has a hat trick for the Orange. You mentioned the fact that defense is one of their biggest strengths. Can we add the fact that depth is potentially another big strength for them?
I think the depth has been there all year. It's just who's going to show up on certain days, right? So you have Molly Guzik show up in that Northwestern game. You have Caroline Trinkus showing up right now against Albany. There's other players that I'd like to see hit the stat sheet a little bit more. Grace Britton, a local product. You know, she's had flashes at times.
We're looking at Emma Munchnick. She's already scored today.
Yeah.
Annie Parker.
And Emma Munchnick, I just want to say, she had a slower start to the year than I certainly expected. I think slower than she'd like as well. But she is going to represent Team USA in Tokyo this summer on that national team. She's so talented. She can beat you in a ton of different ways. That she can beat you out of the box. She can invert at X. She can feed the ball. She can score the ball. I think Emma Munchnick, she's going to have to keep filling up that stat sheet down the stretch here. But I think with just the abundance of talent, the riches on offense they have, there's really no worry here in that depth and the players that Coach Thorpe has in the locker room. It's just, are we all going to show up on the same day to be able to score a bunch of goals? Because you're not going to be able to win a ton of games with a 6-5 final. No matter how good your defense is, you got to put the ball in the back of the net.
All righty, Robert. Thanks for joining us again to talk about men's and women's lacrosse. This team rattled off 7 straight after starting off 0-3, and something's got to give here in the 7-5 game on ESPN Plus and WJPZ Radio, as the Great Danes have won 4 straight home games as well. So we'll see what happens. We'll be right back to close the show on Newhouse Afternoon in just a few moments.
Still streaming live on Twitch and YouTube.
I was actually gonna close right there.
That was a ton of fun. Boys are back.
Yeah, we need
Boys are
another break.
back.
Yeah.
That felt good. That was a lot of fun, fellas. Thanks for having me back. I'm gonna take up the entire show today. I gotcha. Big deal. That's the No World War Baseball Classic.
What's our out time?
Yeah, sorry for extending that. What time would you prefer?
It's like a minute. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
Cool. We'll say Yankees Giants play tomorrow.
Yeah.
Excited for it. We'll be back next week with Sweet 16 Elite 8 reactions and a little Final Four preview.
Okay.
Again, if you have any questions, head up the Twitch or YouTube chat. Had a fun show today.
It was a really fun show.
So something that's been off topic on the Twitter sphere has been the fact that these Sweet 16 games are all later starts.
Especially based on the coast, very weird.
Yeah.
The earlier games are on the west and then late games on the East Coast.
For us and a lot of Eastern time zone fans who are going to be tuned in and watching on both Thursday and Friday, the earliest games start at 7 with the latest games starting at 10, which means if you're on the East Coast like us, that last game likely won't be finished until 12:30 on both nights, around that. It's tough.
Nothing against a late broadcast, I'm not from the East Coast.
Yes, I am
not used to it.
Yeah. I have gotten used to it from living on the Eastern Coast my entire life. I'm not totally against it. I love staying up past midnight and watching some college hoops. But I know there are some fans, especially with like Thursday night games who people are working on Friday. Illinois-Houston is playing at 10 o'clock. That game could end up being one of the best games of the Sweet 16, and it probably won't be over till 12:15, 12:30, assuming it's close and maybe there's fouls down the stretch. So
we'll see.
I'm a little surprised they didn't maybe like have games start off at like 6. Have the last game maybe start at like 9, maybe done by 11.
We're going to have our work cut out for them later this week based off our workload.
Yep.
Hopefully we can have time to at least relax and watch these games.
Yep. The news world does not stop, ladies and gentlemen. The news world does not stop.
Newhouse does not stop. Cannot wait for opening day and to get ready to talk about that in our closing stages.
Wrap things up. What? We got to add in one more break.
Yeah. No, I meant just like right there. I thought you were.
Oh, no, we're not back at it.
I was like, oh, if you're just telling people about sports, and like mention baseball.
The Yankees win.
Have there been any other YouTube chat comments?
Nah, nothing, man. It was really. We just got some more.
Yeah.
Adams has never donated $1. Everything he does is for clout. Go Vendo 4. I see where you're coming from. A frustrated fan. I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Hey, it's giving day. Let's be in a giving mood. Let's be in a giving mood.
Come on.
Awesome.
All right.
Hey, you could say if you donate $5 today and the team makes it to the tournament next year, you could say your $5 was part of that reason for the team getting back to the tournament.
Drop your teams.
.1. Watch live on CuseSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting
I'll try to make
stars
this real
today.
quick.
Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Back here to close it out on Newhouse Afternoon. Joseph Duffy and Hunter Caparelli will be back next week to talk about our Sweet 16 and Elite 8 reactions. And also, opening day is tomorrow, so the pastime is back in the MLB season, which seemed to just end a few days ago, is finally back. The Yankees are playing in San Francisco against the San Francisco Giants. Should be Max Fried versus Logan Webb. Can't wait to see what those teams do. Two of the best teams possibly in the league. There won't be any Garrett Cole or Carlos Rodon to start the season for the New York Yankees, but this should still be a good rotation to start the year for New York. That'll do it for Newhouse Afternoon on the Tuesday edition. For Hunter Caparelli and Joseph Duffy, we say so long from the SMC studios.